I am Marty Gonzalez. I'm an audio engineer, president and chief designer at EMPI. We are a full-service acoustic solution provider in the Philippines. We created Noiseless to address the home space for home office, home classroom, home studios. As with many, due to the pandemic, we've had to make a lot of life changes. My wife and I now both work from home. School inevitably was moved to homeschooling. But we knew going into year 2021 that we would have to create a full-time learning environment. So we would have to give up my wife's office. That office now would serve as the classroom for the two younger ones. The elder one had her own room. We set her up with a desk. She can manage her own time. The little ones were a little more difficult. So we had to create an environment conducive to learning. Frankly, we weren't experts, at least not in that part. So we consulted an expert, and what she told us was, don't make the room look like or feel like any other room in the house. Make it feel like when they're there, it's school. So no TV, or at least no access to TV. In our case, the TV is there, but it's unplugged, so it's literally a fixture on the wall. There are no beds in the room, no toys in the room. Anything in the room has to do with either, art, music, or learning. Here we have cubby holes for all their school materials, so they know where to put things away. Here you'll see a TV, but that doesn't come on until Friday evening, and it's unplugged. We have a desk here, or a table, that they can use for art, or if one of the parents has to be here at the same time, they could pop their computer, have some coffee, read, whatnot, or choose the couch, a little more comfort. Once we had that figured out, the spacing of the desks, that's where I came in. We laid out the desks far enough that both kids, even if they yelled, it was just far enough that it would not really affect the other kid while they were in a learning mode. As I mentioned earlier, the desks are taller than the children, especially when they're seated. That's to prevent any noise from traveling directly across the space. It's also wider than their wingspan while they're seated, so again, they cannot reach to the side to distract each other. And that was so that once they're in their chair, they felt like they were in a cocoon of learning. Each desk, each position of the seats is approximately 2 meters away. So as I mentioned, good for social distancing, but also good for sound pressure levels. Sound pressure levels are the measurement of how loud sound is. That far away is just far enough that we can control the noise using something to block it and then absorb the rest. And then the distance away would help in minimizing the crosstalk, so to speak. Our specialty is we treated the room with acoustics. The room itself, without much furniture, would be highly reverberant. It's a marble floor, glass windows, wooden cabinets with glass fixtures. Very, very live space, if not installed with acoustic treatment. In layman's terms, it's echoes. So it's an unwanted echo. And when there's not enough soft material in the room, echoes thrive there. So what happens is, as noise is being created or sound is being created, it turns into noise when it bounces around the room and hits the person's ear right after or before the main message comes. And that's the definition of an echo. You may hear this when you first move into your apartment or your house. When there's no furniture, it sounds like a chamber or a cavernous space. As soon as you start moving furniture in, carpets in, curtains, it becomes a relatively quiet space. In our case, because we moved furniture out, it became a live space, but with the aid of acoustic treatment, we were able to control that. We position them beside the window, so we give them as much natural light as possible. In this particular room, it was a little difficult because we tried to give them as much natural light as possible. So we situated them beside the windows. Doing that really limited our the available space to install a wall panel or an acoustic treatment panel. So the only other space available was up in the ceiling. The acoustic treatment, the star of the show. It may not seem like a logical place to put an acoustic panel, but we don't need to have sound going directly into them. What we're trying to do is to reduce the echoes in the room, and so sound will bounce around all the surfaces in the room, and having two large arrays in the ceiling do a very good job of absorbing all that unwanted chatter. So any noise that comes from here goes up, almost 100% absorbed, does not come down. Any noise that lingers in the room, they bounce around, they get trapped on the back side of each panel. In this case, we just need to attenuate the sound or the echoes enough so that the kids felt like they were in a little learning pod, even though there were no walls around them. And we're able to do this by adding some policy, I call it with my wife, where when you increase or decrease the volume on the computer, there's a graphic, and so we say, okay, only to the first line, and there's 3 available lines, and so they know what to chase. Sometimes it goes over, and I say lower the volume, and then they'll know what to do, so that they have it loud enough, but not loud enough that it distracts their sister. And then the acoustics soak up all the loose echoes around the room, and and it works. Acoustic test, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And this is what it sounds like in a heavily treated room. This is what it sounds like in an untreated room. Using the example of my daughter's learning space, we can definitely modify that for a parent and a child. The factors are the same, the things to consider are the same. The distance between both speakers, or when I say speaker, I'm talking about the individuals in the room. Now, with the case of a parent who's probably twice as tall as their child, you would need a higher barrier. And so you can do that by dropping an acoustic baffle down. You can make pagawa a higher backboard, or you can face the parent away from the child. By doing that, more times than not, the parent's voice is going to be louder than the child's. So by the same token, when we control the volume coming out of the computer, we need to tone down the volume coming out of the parent, and you can do that one of 2 ways. Consciously, where the parent actually controls the output of his voice or her voice, which is impractical because sometimes people get excited or they get angry. Guilty. So what you do is you face them to the wall, adjacent to the kid or away from the kid, and then we can put a panel back there. So if their voice gets too loud, it's bouncing off an acoustic panel and it gets absorbed. So it mitigates any noise that might affect or distract the child. Likewise, so depending on the position, it may not work in the room that I chose, or at least in the positions that I've chosen, but it's a case-to-case basis. We can definitely offer assistance in that, but whenever somebody needs assistance in design, we can help them. Most people have 4 walls in the ceiling, so we can find a corner for the child, have the child face the wall with an acoustic panel, so all the noise coming from them gets trapped in that corner, and then have another corner for the parents, so the parents can be in the same room and work at the same time. Definitely doable. I mean, we have products where there's stuff you hang on the wall, it opens up, and it's an instant voice booth. So we would be doing something like that for the parent if they needed to work in the same room as the kid. Well, I'd like to share with all the other parents out there, you are not alone. We can definitely find a way to make things easier on you, your kids, and the whole learning at home experience. Once you've experienced a noiseless life, you'll never look back.